قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد
ना तस्य परातिमा अस्ति जस्य नाम
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one.
So what if the name Allah isn't actually foreign? Like, what if it's not some new concept or a distant idea or, just a tribal identity? What if it's something that humanity just once knew?
Wow, yeah. That's a really profound question. Because we're so accustomed to the boundaries we draw around ourselves.
Right, exactly.
Like the physical borders, the different languages we speak, the specific traditions we inherit. We just, we kind of assume that because we use different names for things, we must be talking about entirely different realities.
Yeah, we see a different word and we immediately think, oh, that belongs to them. That has nothing to do with me.
Exactly.
But today, we're really going to look past those boundaries. So, welcome to the deep dive. And just to set the stage, our mission today is absolutely not to debate.
No, not at all.
We are not here to argue over who is right or who is wrong. Instead, we're looking at this really beautiful, ancient stack of sources.
Right.
We've got linguistic history, some ancient theology, translations of the Hebrew Bible and the Qur'an, and even some really fascinating reflections from indigenous traditions from all over the globe.
Yeah, and I think that's so important right now. We live in this world of just profound information overload,
Oh yeah, constant.
World where we are constantly told that civilizations are fundamentally clashing. But if you look beneath all that noise, beneath the daily headlines and the historical grievances, there is this deeply unifying thread.
A thread that's just been there all along.
Exactly. It's an ancient echo across human history. And it's a thread that is really just waiting to be recognized by you, by anyone willing to listen.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because if there really is this universal echo, we need to start by actually listening to the sounds our ancestors made. We need to move from these abstract, sort of high-level concepts of religion down to the physical breath and sound of ancient languages. Because, and this is what's so wild to me, when you trace the linguistic family tree backward in time, you start to see that different faiths are actually speaking dialects of the exact same ancient language.
Yeah, they really are. So, if we look at the Middle East, which is, the cradle of so many faiths, we were dealing with the Semitic language family.
Right.
And languages don't just exist in a vacuum, right? They evolve, kind of like biological organisms. So over thousands of years, as populations migrate and vocal cords adapt and geographic isolation sets in, a single original language slowly branches out.
Makes sense.
Linguists refer to this shared ancestor as a proto-language, so in this case, Proto-Semitic. And when linguists actually reconstruct the vocabulary of that ancient ancestor, we find a shared root word for the sacred.
Which is just, it completely shatters our modern assumptions.
It really does.
Like, take Jesus, for example. We read his words in English today, but Jesus obviously didn't speak English.
No, definitely not.
He lived in the ancient Levant. He spoke Aramaic. And when he called out to God, he didn't use the English word God. He used the Aramaic word Allah.
Allah, right. And as that language family branches outward, we see all these variations. So in Arabic, the word is Allah.
Right.
In Hebrew, it's Elohim, or its singular form, Eloha.
Okay.
So all of these terms, Allah, Allah, Elohim, they are linguistic cognates. They're sister words that literally all sprout from that exact same Proto-Semitic root.
And the root itself isn't a proper name, right?
Yeah.
Not the way we would, name a human being.
No, not.
The sources show it comes from an ancient verb meaning to worship, or the one who is worship. So it's more of a description of an ultimate reality.
Yeah, it's a title of absolute reverence, and the way this shared linguistic root translates into shared theology is, well, it's striking.
Oh, absolutely.
Consider the work of Yosef Yoel Rivlin. He was a very prominent Jewish scholar, and he undertook this monumental task of translating the Arabic Qur'an into Hebrew.
Which is a huge undertaking.
Massive. And when he encountered the Arabic word Allah in the text, he didn't just translate it into some generic Hebrew word for a deity. He consistently translated Allah as Elohim.
Wait, the very same word used throughout the Hebrew Bible for the God of Israel?
Exactly. The exact same word. And this was a deeply theological bridge. It's an acknowledgement through the actual mechanics of language that these texts are not pointing to fundamentally different deities.
Right, they're pointing to the same God of Abraham.
Right. So when the Arabic Qur'an opens with Bismillahi ar-Rahmani ar-Rahim, in the name of God, most gracious, most merciful, Rivelin's Hebrew translation reads, Brishem Elohim Harahaman Horaham.
Wow.
The phonetic and spiritual resonance there is just undeniable.
It really is. I do want to pause on that Hebrew word for a second, though, Elohim.
Sure.
Because looking at the notes, it has that im ending. And in Hebrew grammar, an im suffix usually makes the word plural, right? Like cherubim or seraphim.
Yeah, that's correct.
So doesn't a plural word imply, a plurality of gods?
It seems like it would, but the grammar tells a much deeper story here.
Okay.
Yes, Elohim has a plural suffix, but if you look at the very first verse of the Hebrew Bible, in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth. The word used for God is the plural Elohim, but the verb for created, which is bara, is strictly singular.
Oh, interesting. So the noun is plural, but the action it takes is singular.
Exactly. Rabbi Ari Shvat explains the mechanism behind this beautifully. He says this grammatical structure is not describing multiple competing gods.
Right.
It is what linguists actually call a plural of majesty.
Oh, okay.
It's a representation of the one and only God who encompasses, harmonizes, and unites all conceivable powers. The ancient Hebrews were basically using a grammatically expanded word to try and express a vastness that just cannot be contained by singular human concepts.
It's like language stretching itself to capture the infinite.
That's a perfect way to put it.
I was looking at the notes on our own English word, God, and I fully expected it to be completely isolated from all of this. I mean, English is a Germanic language, right? It feels worlds away from the ancient Middle East.
Yeah, you'd think so.
But I found this really surprising ancient Proto-Indo-European root. The root is Gu-G-E-U with a D.
Right, Gudi. And it carries a very specific meaning.
It does. It means the one who is invoked, or the one who is called upon. And it actually corresponds to ancient Sanskrit words meaning the exact same thing.
Wow.
It's like finding different dialects of the same original human longing. Whether you're saying Allah, Elohim, or God, you're expressing the exact same human reflex.
Yeah.
That deep internal need to call out to the one who is worshipped.
And that raises such a fascinating point, because if our ancestors were all using variations of the same concepts for the divine, we have to ask what happens when we look at the people who actually spoke those languages.
Right, like, does this reflex exist independently of geography?
Exactly. Did people who never met each other, separated by oceans and mountains, arrive at the exact same internal conclusion?
Which brings us to what anthropologists sometimes refer to as micro-religions.
Yes. And just to define that term for you listening, micro-religions refers to the localized indigenous faith systems of small populations.
Like tribes that were totally disconnected.
Right. Cultures that developed in relative isolation, far outside the influence of major global empires or trade routes or the massive spread of the Abrahamic faiths.
Yeah. And you look at the records of the Cheyenne people in North America, for instance. Long before they had any contact with global religions, they called the divine the creator of the universe. The Lenape people called him you to whom we pray. And then halfway across the world, the Ainu people of Japan spoke of the divine Lord of Heaven.
It's incredible. They uniformly recognized a creator who could not be reduced to an idol or fully comprehended with physical eyes.
Wait, I actually have to push back here a little bit.
Okay, go for it.
Because when I picture ancient, isolated tribes, I picture them worshiping the rain or a sacred mountain or, the spirits of the forest.
Animism, right.
Sure, yeah, that's the common image.
So how does that fit into the idea of an underlying monotheism?
It's a really crucial distinction to make. In many of these cultures, anthropologists found a layered system of belief. So yes, there was often an engagement with local spirits, the river, the forest, the weather.
Right.
But when researchers dug deeper into the cosmologies of these tribes, they almost universally found a high god.
Oh, really?
Yeah, a supreme, singular creator who existed above and beyond all the local spirits. The local spirits were sort of seen as forces to be navigated in daily life, but the high god was the ultimate origin of all things.
The ultimate source.
Exactly.
And there's this deeply moving story in our sources that illustrates this so perfectly. It was documented by a European anthropologist in the early 20th century. He was studying the Shilluk tribe, which is a Nilotic people in southern Sudan. Yeah, this is such a beautiful account. The anthropologist was speaking with a 6-year-old boy.
6 years old.
Right. And he asked this young child who had created him, The boy answered immediately, without any theological hesitation at all. He said, Diwak, God. Wow. But the anthropologist pressed him, kind of playing the skeptic. He asked, but you have never seen him. How do you know?
And the boy replied, and this gives me chills, he said, even if no one can see him, yet he is there. Right? Like the breeze that blows, even if no one can see the breeze, yet it blows. No one has doubts about that.
A 6-year-old child, untouched by formal religious institutions, expressing the absolute deepest, most profound truth.
Yeah.
And this brings us directly to a foundational Islamic concept known as fitra.
Fitra.
Yeah, fitra is the inborn natural disposition that's embedded in the human soul. It suggests that the recognition of a single supreme being isn't some complex academic theology that we have to be taught in a classroom.
That's not a textbook thing.
No, it's instinctive. It is literally the baseline operating system of the human heart.
And here's where it gets really interesting, I think, because the common historical assumption we are always taught is the exact opposite.
Oh, completely.
We're taught that ancient humanity was naturally polytheistic. We picture early humans just, terrified of the dark, worshiping the sun and the moon, and then slowly, over thousands of years of societal evolution, they finally condensed those many gods into the idea of one God.
Right, that's the standard narrative.
But what if that timeline is entirely backwards?
Well, the evidence from these isolated micro-religions and this whole concept of fitra suggests exactly that. It suggests that the original default state of humanity was a simple, intuitive recognition of one creator.
So this deep inner recognition of one creator is our baseline.
Wow.
And polytheism, like the vast pantheons of hundreds of gods in Greece or Rome or ancient Mesopotamia, that was a later complication.
Yes.
It was a splintering of the truth.
Which requires us to look at the mechanisms of how that splintering actually happened. I mean, if unity is our natural state, why did humanity create pantheons of competing gods?
Right. To understand that, we kind of have to look at how the human mind works and how our ancestors tried to survive in a terrifying, unpredictable world.
Yeah, because ancient people observed these massive, overwhelming cycles of nature. They saw things come into existence. They saw things sustained and nourished by the rain and the sun. And they also saw things violently destroyed by storms and drought and death.
It's a lot to process.
It is. And from a psychological standpoint, human beings need a sense of control. If a storm is just a mindless, chaotic force that might destroy your crops and starve your family, that is absolutely terrifying.
Because you can't negotiate with a mindless force.
Exactly. But if you anthropomorphize that storm, if you give it a personality, desires, and a name, now you have a storm god. And you can bargain with the storm god. You can offer sacrifices. You can appease it. The human mind began to categorize the infinite actions of the divine, basically slicing them up into manageable, human-like entities.
So what does this all mean? Well, think about it like a prism.
Ooh, I like that analogy.
Yeah, if you shine a single beam of pure white light through a glass prism, the glass shatters that light into a spectrum of different colors, right? Red, blue, green, yellow.
Okay.
What happened in ancient history is that humanity saw the incredibly varied actions of God in the world: creation, preservation, destruction. And they basically ran that pure light through the prism of human anxiety.
Yes. They lost sight of the single source of light, and they began to worship the individual colors.
Exactly. And you can actually see this splintering happen historically. If we look at the ancient Canaanite religion in the Levant, they originally recognized a supreme creator god, and his name was El.
El, the very root we were discussing earlier.
Exactly. El was the pure light. But over time, the concept became crowded. The Canaanites added lesser gods to represent different natural forces. So you had Baal, the god of storms and rain. You had Yam, the god of the sea. Mot, the god of death.
They created a pantheon to explain the different colors of the spectrum.
Right, and you see a similar categorizing in the Vedic expressions of ancient India.
Yeah, and we want to present this carefully, of course. Without claiming direct theological equivalence, we can definitely observe the human mind using a similar framework to understand the universe.
Right.
In the Vedic tradition, you see Brahma associated with creation, Vishnu associated with preservation, and Shiva associated with transformation, or the end. It's really just the sincere attempt of the human mind to compartmentalize functions that are honestly too vast to hold all at once.
But the tragedy of the prism is that once you shatter the light, the colors start to clash.
They do.
The fragmentation of God led to mythologies where these separate deities were constantly at war with each other. In the Canaanite myths, Baal literally goes into physical combat with Yam, the sea god.
Right, it gets chaotic.
The gods get tired. They need palaces built for them. They suffer defeat. By fracturing the divine to try and understand it, humanity accidentally created a universe of anxiety and eternal conflict.
Which brings us to the profound restorative role of monotheism.
Yes.
Because if we fragmented the divine into these competing forces, the question is, how do we gather those scattered rays of light back into the singular truth we feel inside?
How do we return to the fitra?
Exactly. And we look to the concept of Tawhid, the absolute, indivisible oneness of God.
Tawhid.
Right. The Qur'an is not introducing some new invention to the world. It is a restoration of absolute clarity.
It's a reversal of the prism.
Exactly. The Qur'an brings all the scattered colors back into the pure, blinding white light. It states so clearly that there are no separate beings for different functions in the universe.
Right.
Instead, there is Al-Khaliq, the creator, there is Ar-Razaq, the sustainer, and there is Al-Mumit, the one who causes death. All functions, all powers are simply attributes of a single unified source.
And because it's all one source, there's no internal conflict. There is no war in the heavens.
The attributes of the one true God are perfect, stripped of all the human limitations we projected onto the pantheons. There is a verse in the Qur'an known as Ayatul Kursi, the verse of the throne.
It was beautiful.
It is one of the most magnificent expressions of Tawhid ever articulated. It says, Allah. There is no God except Him, the living, sustaining. Neither drowsiness nor sleep overtakes Him.
No fatigue, no weariness.
To Him belongs whatever is in the heavens and whatever is on the earth. His kursi, His knowledge and power encompasses the heavens and the earth, and the preservation of both does not tire Him.
The preservation of both does not tire Him.
Yeah.
Let's pause here for a second. Think about what that actually means for you, listening right now. If you deeply internalize that reality, think about how incredibly peaceful that realization is.
It completely removes the chaos of existence.
It really does. It strips away all the anxiety of a universe run by competing, unpredictable powers. You don't have to appease the god of the sea and then worry that in doing so you somehow offended the god of the storm.
Right.
You don't have to navigate a cosmic war zone. There was only one. It is a return to complete simplicity. It's the exhale after holding your breath for a lifetime.
That's a beautiful way to phrase it. It is the alignment of your conscious mind with your fitra. When your conscious beliefs match the innate disposition of your soul, the friction of life just dissolves.
We've gone on a vast historical and theological journey today, looking at ancient scripts, tracing the drift of languages, listening to the echoes of forgotten tribes. But it really all comes back to a single quiet point.
It does.
The call to one God is not a tribal identity. It's not a foreign concept from a distant part of the world that you have to somehow force yourself to accept.
No. It is an echo sounding through the entirety of human time. From the Aramaic Allah spoken by Jesus in the Levant, to the Arabic Allah revealed in the Qur'an, to the Hebrew Elohim, to the whispers of ancient indigenous tribes calling out to the creator of the universe.
It is the exact same longing.
It is. And to you listening to this right now, deep inside, you know this. You don't truly believe in competing powers fighting for control of the universe. You believe in the one who created you, the one who sustains you, the one who hears you in the total silence of your own mind, and the one who will eventually take you back. This isn't a new message you are learning today. It is a return. It is a homecoming.
He really is a homecoming.
Yeah.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with one final thought. Think of a magnetic compass.
Okay.
No matter how much you shake it, no matter how chaotic the journey gets, or how many times you turn in circles, the needle inside always, inevitably settles and points toward true north.
Yeah.
Ask yourself, is the longing you feel for meaning and unity something society taught you? Or is your heart just a compass needle, spinning through the noise of the world, internally pulling you back toward the single unifying truth you have known since before you were born?
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد
नातस्य परातिमा अस्ति जस्य नाम महद्याशाः
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Deuteronomy 6, 4, 5. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one.